transitional period of 5 years for the commencement of the registration and licensing of credit guarantee companies. Also proposes to amend Section 43 of the Central Bank Act to obligate non-deposit taking credit providers to furnish the Central Bank of Kenya with any information as the Central Bank of Kenya may require for the proper discharge of its functions. If you're just joining us, is that the House is about to commence its business. Prayer has been said and the chair taken, but the House has not quorated to allow it to commence that particular business lined up for consideration this morning. Members are in the chambers, but the number for quorum has not been achieved yet. And currently the quorum bell is on, of course, to pave way for the members who may be within the precincts of Parliament to enable them to make their way into the chambers for the House to attain that required quorum. And of course, without any further delay, to commence its business lined up for consideration this morning. The Crops Amendment Bill, a bill also originating from the National Assembly and tabled by the Honorable Kasim Tandaza Sawa, is a bill whose debate was concluded on the floor of the House. As you can see, those are members who have already taken their seats, but the House has not commenced its business because the quorum has not been achieved. The chair has been taken by the Speaker, and until that quorum is achieved, the House cannot commence its business. But of course, a quorum bell is on to alert the members who may be yet to make their way into the chambers to hasten their steps and get to the chambers for the House to be able to commence its business. And this is as provided for by the House Standing Order number 34. The Crops Amendment Bill by Honorable Tandaza Kasim. Debate on it was concluded this morning. The business that is to be transacted on this particular bill is a question to be put for the bill to proceed to the next level. This is a bill that seeks to include a chiote to the first schedule of the Crops Act number 16 of 2013. The chiote, known at the coast as mrangi, because of its bright red fruits, is a crop grown largely at the coast, but whose potential has been underutilized. So the quorum has been achieved. I will be handing you over back to the proceedings of the House. Good morning. My name is Kamche Menza.
Quorum to start business. Let's proceed.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. In this morning's sitting, Honorable Speaker, reports of the Auditor General and financial statement for the year ended 30th June 2024 and the certificates therein in respect of EPC, turnkey construction of 5 foot bridges and T-Mall flyover on Mombasa and Langata roads, project loan credit number KEN 01001 and KEN 02001/19, Kenya National Highway Authority, infrastructure finance and public-private partnership projects, additional financing, IDA credit number 6121, KE, National Treasury, Vijana Vuka na Afya Youth Program, grant number 201367465, State Department for Youth Affairs, State Department for Youth Affairs. Promotion of youth employment through scholarships, phase 2, Wings to Fly. 4, project number BMZ, number 2018-67399, State Department for Basic Education. Kenya ETF reporting program to the UNFCCC project, State Department for Environment and Climate Change. Combating poaching and illegal wildlife trafficking in Kenya through integrated approach, credit number 001-08406, State Department for Wildlife. Integrated health and environment observatories, and legal and institutional strengthening for the sound management of chemicals in Africa, Africa Chemobs, grant number AFR, Chemobs, project C 07-2017 and 2017, State Department for Environment and Climate Change, East African Portland Cement PLC, financing locally led climate action program number P173065, credit number IDA 6980KE, grant agreement number TFO B6810KE, National Treasury, Provident Fund, National Treasury, Last Mile Connectivity Project I, loan number 21001-500-32195, Kenya Power and Lighting Company, PLC, Kenya Off-Grid Solar Access Project for Underserved Counties, IDA CR number 6135KE, Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation, Kenya Electricity Modernization Project, IDA CR number 5587KE, Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation, and finally, Honorable Speaker, the Council of Legal Education, Staff Car Loan and Mortgage Scheme. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to lay.
Thank you very much, Majority Leader. We have a paper by the chairperson, to be laid by the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance, International Planning. I understand that it has not been approved by the Speaker, so that one will wait. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, motion. Report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Cooperative Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2024. Question to be put and third reading.
Honorable members, I now put the question that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Cooperatives Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2024. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I call upon the mover to move the third reading.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Cooperatives Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2024 be now read a third time. I also request Honorable Gishimu Gidinji to second.
Honorable Gishimu. Please trace the Honorable Gishimu.
Honorable Speaker, I second.
Next order. Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Cooperatives Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2024 be now read a third time. I now put the question that the Cooperatives Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2024 be now read at that time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? There is have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to establish the office of the Commissioner for Cooperative Development at the national level of government and the office of the County Director for Cooperatives in each county government to provide for promotion, registration, and regulation of cooperatives, to provide for intergovernmental cooperative relations, and for connected purposes. Order number 9, the Crops Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2023, second reading, question to be put.
Honorable members, I now put the question that the Crops Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2023, be now read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? There is have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Crops Act. Order number 10, the Tax Procedures Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2024, second reading.
What is out of order, Honorable Dr. Nyikal?
Chair, this is an extremely important bill and is coming before us rightly. But up to now, we do not have the committee report on this. And Madam Speaker, you know that tax laws are very complex, particularly those who are not experts in tax. And what helps us is to actually go through the committee reports and I've tried to get this committee report and I've not got it. And I'm also concerned without really getting ahead of the order paper, that even the next one that is coming is also a very important one, and I don't know whether the report of that is also available. And Madam Speaker, you know, these are bills that have to do with the tax and some of the issues that we have had problems before. I would have liked that these reports actually be made available to us. And I'm also concerned of the quorum in the House. I'm not raising a quorum issue. But if we will go through this bill quickly and go to the next one quickly, we'll have passed very, very crucial bills with very minimal participation from members. So, Madam Speaker, I would like to have your guidance on this.
The chair is not in the house. Understand that the report was tabled yesterday, and I order that that report be circulated to the members right away. Majority Leader, please approach the table. Honorable Osoro, please approach the table. Honorable members, as we wait for the report to be circulated, I call upon the Honorable Osoro to proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in line also with your directions and in line with what Honorable Nyikala has raised, I wish to confirm that the report was actually tabled last evening, and like you've ordered that it be circulated, that is quite in order, although Honorable Nyikala, I think he had actually stepped out, and also to inform him that we are actually discussing the bill and not the report, but we are well guided as far as the circulation is concerned, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the tax procedures amendment bill number 20, bill of 2024, the National Assembly bills number 46 of 2024, be read for the second time, Honorable Speaker. And the bill, Honorable Speaker, was published on 1st November 2024 and was actually read for the first time on 13th of November 2024, and thereafter it was committed to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning for consideration and tabling in the House. Honorable Speaker, I wish to give the overview or the general overview of what really this bill, the proposed amendments contains, Honorable Speaker. And I will start, Honorable Speaker, with the clarity on the form, the nature, and the contents of the electronic tax invoice. The electronic tax invoice, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, looking at the clause 2 of the bill, it seeks to amend the section 23A of the Principal Act by inserting a new subsection 2A to clarify the information required on electronic tax invoice. This also mandates that such invoices should contain the following information, Honorable Speaker: the designation tax invoice, the name, the address, and the PIN of the supplier, and if available, Honorable Speaker, the same details for the purchaser. That is what this particular clause seeks to clarify. Number 2, Honorable Speaker, it also requires the inclusion of the tax invoice serial number, issuance date and time, supply date and time, if different, description of the supply, including, of course, the quantity or types of services, and the details of any discount applied, consideration for the supply, tax rate charged, total amount, and any other information. Mr. Speaker, in order to address the challenges posed by small businesses, small businesses face and the small-scale farmers, this bill also seeks to insert a new subsection 3A. And I call upon honorable members, Honorable Speaker, to follow on this even before we get to the committee of the whole House, so that they can be able to, because we all come from areas that have got very many small-scale business owners. So it seeks to insert a new section 3A, where a small business or a small-scale farmer will be the one to issue a tax invoice for the purpose of ascertaining tax liability. This will apply to those whose turnover does not exceed 1 million. The word here, Honorable Speaker, is that it does not. It only applies to those that whose turnover does not exceed 1 million. So this proposed amendment, Honorable Speaker, seeks to provide clarity, and they also simplify the compliance for business. Honorable Speaker, let's look at the extension of tax amnesty program, whose deadline is June 2025. Clause 3 of the bill proposes to delete Section 37E of the Tax Procedures Act to extend the tax amnesty program deadline from 30th June 2024 to 30th June 2025. Seeks to extend the tax amnesty program deadline, Honorable Speaker, from 30th June 2024 to 30th June 2025. This proposal will give taxpayers relief from the penalties and interests on unpaid taxes, which will also, of course, allow them to save money and reinvest in their businesses while increasing government revenue. Clause 4, Honorable Speaker, of the bill introduces also a new section, Section 35F, to the Tax Procedures Act, which offers relief in cases where recovering unpaid taxes becomes uncertain or challenging. If the commissioner deems it impractical to collect a tax, or if there are significant obstacles, costs, or unfairness in pursuing it, they can choose not to pursue the unpaid tax with approval from the Cabinet Secretary. So the word here is, if the commissioner deems it impractical to collect a tax, impractical, and if there are very significant obstacles along the way, costs or unfairness in pursuing it, they can choose not to pursue the unpaid tax with approval from the Cabinet Secretary. In such instance, Mr. Speaker, the tax liability is considered resolved. Very, very important for business people and for honorable members to understand. So if necessary, the CS can guide the Commission on how to proceed or involve the court as provided for in subsection 1, 2, and 3. So consequently, Honorable Speaker, under subsection 4, the Commissioner will be required to publish in the Gazette specifying the names of the taxpayers, the relevant reasons for the tax abandonment, and the amount of taxes abandoned. That would be the requirement in the Gazette. So this will ensure that such information, Honorable Speaker, is in the public limelight for scrutiny so that people do not abuse it. That the Cabinet Secretary, you will just maneuver your language and get to the Cabinet Secretary, find some way and fix yourself for such, to be considered by the Cabinet Secretary. So gazettement, again, brings it to the limelight for the public to know. You can download the Gazette notice, which is a public document, and see the reason and the names for the tax abandonment issue. Mr. Speaker, the immediate question that arises is what then safeguards, or what safeguards are there to ensure that such a provision is not abused? And that is what I've said. In order to address these concerns, what this House has done is woven into these provisions as captured now under subsection 5. That is what the National Assembly will do, of course, so that people, again, as I've said, do not abuse this program on how the CS and who can connect you with the CS. Indeed, it is not enough for the notice to be published in the Gazette. The notice will be laid before the National Assembly, and just like statutory instruments in our Statutory Instruments Act, the National Assembly will have the opportunity to approve or annul the Gazette notice. So that is the gist of this particular proposal, that even having the names published and the Gazette notice, such again will be tabled in this House. And it will be just like any other statutory instruments, it will be tabled here under the Statutory Instruments Act, and this House will have the opportunity to either annul or approve. So if there is a question of abusing the powers by the Cabinet Secretary or powers that be, or the Commissioner himself, then this House will be able to correct that mess. So this is an important safeguard, and it retains the authority of this House on tax abandonment in ensuring that the provision is exercised with fair judgment and probity. And there is nothing that is outside the law, Honorable Speaker. This is in line with Article 95 of the Constitution on our oversight roles. We continue with our oversight responsibilities in terms of making sure that people do not abuse their powers and mess around with what is supposed to be done. Honorable Speaker, allow me to also point out that this provision will offer relief to Kenyans in situations where tax recovery is no longer feasible, particularly in cases of financial hardships and other dire instances. Because there are instances where people are really, tied up, but you'll still find pressure. People use those strict, laws, the strict adherence to the law, where they don't consider one's dire need or situation at that particular moment, and then they decide to just harass them and make sure that they pay with a lot of consequences. The school of thought of law that we believe is extremely strict, and it's not really right sometimes, as much as it's good for government to recover the money. This will help relieve with justifiable reasons and with all those structures that have been laid to make sure that the fund and the structure and even those who will get such relief are people that have gone through all the channels, from the Commissioner to the Cabinet Secretary to the gazettement to now this House to approve. So you can imagine it's not something that is very easy also to get, so that people do not abuse that, as I've said. Honorable Speaker, let's also look at the expansion of the scope for withholding VAT. Clause 5 proposes amendments to Section 42A of the bill by deleting of subsection 1 to subject zero-rated suppliers and registered manufacturers, irrespective of their investment levels in the preceding 3 years, from 1st July 2022 to withholding tax, thereby deleting the current provision that exempts those who have invested at least 3 billion shillings 3 years before 1st July 2022. But let's look at it this way. What does the current law provide on that? The current law, Honorable Speaker, provides that zero-rated suppliers and registered manufacturers who have invested at least 3 billion shillings 3 years before 1st July 2022 are exempt from withholding tax. So the House might also take note that the provision is a cleanup, since the provision to subsection 1 of section 42A of the Tax Procedures Act speaks to the dates that are no longer applicable. That is what, as the current law provides, those very dates are no longer applicable, Honorable Speaker. Let me also speak to the penalty for failure to deduct withholding VAT. What are the penalties? Honorable Speaker, clause 5 further proposes to amend subsection 4C by introducing 10% penalty on the amount of withholding VAT if it is not deducted from a payment, or if deducted is not remitted to the Kenya Revenue Authority within 5 working days after the deduction has occurred. Within 5 working days. So the penalty, Honorable Speaker, here that seeks to be amended, or rather to be introduced, is subsection 4C, 10% penalty on the amount of withholding VAT. Say, the amount that you ought to have remitted upon the withholding, or deducted, when you calculate now with your VAT, or rather the deduction that is supposed to be paid, Honorable Speaker, let's say it's 100,000, and then you are not able to remit the same, or you, by design or deliberately, somebody has failed to deduct that amount, then you will have a penalty of 10% of such an amount that needs to be remitted. And that would be 10,000 shillings within 5 working days. So you have a window here. You have a window here. You've deducted 1. So within these 5 days, remit it. If you do not remit it to Kenya Revenue Authority within that 5 days, then what will happen is that you'll get this fine. So at least you have these 5 working days. The word here is working. So if it happens over the weekend, then it's not a working day. You'll then have that holiday of an extra 2 days, and makes it 7 days. So it is very important for this House to note that clause 5B of the bill seeks to change the penalty from a criminal one, as it is, to an administrative offense. Because as the law is currently, Honorable Speaker, it criminalizes it, and it comes with retributive natures. Why would we seek to place punishments in issues that can be handled administratively? We can actually raise more funds from that, instead of punishing you. Some people consider punishments which are not monetary or pecuniary in nature as the best. But then now this amendment then seeks to create or to change the penalty from criminal, making it criminal. We should not criminalize the question of remittance of taxes. We should find a way, and that is why this procedure rules, Honorable Speaker, maneuvers a language to make sure that we meet at a common ground of understanding from both sides, the taxpayer and the tax collector or the taxman. So therefore, cases on failure to withhold tax or remit withheld tax would be resolved more quickly and directly by the tax authorities, making it easier to settle tax disputes. This also helps to cure the question of unnecessary bribery, because you already know that you haven't remitted the withholding, the VAT, and you know it's criminal. What then most people do, the rogue business people who want to evade taxes do, they find a way to bribe the investigative agencies so that they are not investigated. So government loses, and this percentage of, or rather this amount, ends up in people's pockets. We have provided a provision where you have 5 days to remit, 5 days to deduct, and it makes it easier. You will either be, you'll pay the 10% within this period of time if you do not either remit or deduct or deduct and do not remit, or failure to deduct, Honorable Speaker. So let's look at the refund period, Honorable Speaker, for the overpaid taxes. Honorable Speaker, Clause 6 of the bill proposes to amend Section 47(1)(a) of the Tax Procedures Act to give taxpayers the option to apply to the Kenya Revenue Authority to offset overpaid taxes against outstanding tax debts and future tax liability, or to request a refund of the overpaid amount. For income tax, for example, Mr. Speaker, taxpayers can make this application within 5 years from the date the tax was paid. For other types of taxes, the application must be made within 6 months from the date of overpayment. For income tax, Mr. Speaker, it is 5 years. For any other type of tax, Mr. Speaker, it must be made within 6 months. So the deal here is the income tax. 5 years. 5 years, you have such for refund, Mr. Speaker. And under the current provision, we need to compare. You'll realize that taxpayers, under the current act, the Tax Procedures Act, taxpayers can apply for a refund of overpaid taxes, except, this has an exception, with an exception of value-added tax within a period of 5 years. Just VAT within a period of 5 years. So the proposed amendment, Mr. Speaker, under subsection BI seeks to change this by limiting the 5-year period for refunds to income tax only. Income tax only for 5 years. The rest of the types of taxes, 6 months. Subsection B2, Honorable Speaker, provides that all the other types of taxes, the amendment introduces a new short limit of 6 months to apply for a refund, so that you do not, somebody does not hold your money for such a long period of time. All the other taxes, government will not be holding your money for all that period of time, Honorable Speaker. You have now 6 months. Within 6 months, make an application, of course, except for the income tax. So, Honorable Speaker, at least the 6-month limits for refund apply only, at present, it only applies for the VAT. Now, that will change under the new proposals of the tax procedure bill. So let's also look at the integration of the electronic tax system with the data managing reporting system. Honorable Speaker, Clause 7 of the bill seeks to amend Section 95A of the Principal Act by inserting a new Section 1 that seeks to authorize Kenya Revenue Authority to require businesses and financial institutions to integrate the electronic data management and reporting system with the electronic tax system for the submission of electronic documents and transaction data as provided for under subsection 1A. It also seeks, Honorable Speaker, or proposes that businesses required to connect to the electro tax system will have a set period to do so, up to a maximum of 1 year. We all know we are moving digital, and that is what the world is doing. But again, this then seeks, subsection 1B and C and 1C, seeks now then to give you a period to synchronize your systems electronically, at least 1 year, depending on their business type. You will have 1 year to integrate such systems. And this requirement will only apply to businesses with an annual turnover of more than 5 billion. That is the best thing about this whole thing. It is particular on those people whose turnover in business is only, it's beyond or more than 5 million, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, subsection 5 and 6 provides that the failure to comply with the integration mandate will be considered an offense with penalties of up to 500,000 shillings per month or a part of a month of continued non-compliance. Additionally, financial institutions that fail to submit electronic documents through the required systems will face similar penalties. Honorable Speaker, the purpose of these penalties is to enhance tax compliance and ensure accuracy, timely submission of data with significant financial penalties for non-compliance. The gist is that you have 1 year to integrate. 1. 2, your business must be the business whose turnover is 5 million and above, Honorable Speaker. All the rest, there is no such provision or such proposal. So this is really a positive thing, Honorable Speaker, and it also cures time in terms of remittance and even returns, Honorable Speaker. So for due date for submission and payment. Clause 8, Honorable Speaker, of the bill seeks to amend subsection 7, seeks to amend section 7 of the Tax Procedures Act to provide that in computing the period for lodging of an objection or appeals, the computation shall not include weekends and public holidays. This proposal will give taxpayers more practical timelines to lodge their objections or appeals. What is it seeking to do, Honorable Speaker? It seeks to amend, the penalty to late submission and failure to submit returns by an export processing zone enterprises from 2,000 per day to 20,000 per month. That would be the penalty. That will be the penalty. But what is the positive in this whole thing for business people? It is the computation, not then now including, it will not be including the weekends and public holidays as currently is. That is a positive, a very, very good thing, so that you have such timeline to lodge your complaints within very practical timelines, Honorable Speaker. Now, Clause 9 seeks to amend Section 83, Honorable Speaker, of the Tax Procedures Act to change the penalty structure for export processing zone, which is EPZ, that failed to submit their required returns under Income Tax Act. That is straightforward, and I think, Honorable Members, when they'll be retiring to ventilate and look at this bill, they will be able to understand. So currently, these enterprises face a penalty of 2,000 Kenya shillings for each day they fail to submit the returns. The proposed amendment would instead impose a penalty of 20,000 shillings per month or part of the month of failure if the failure continues. Look at that. Currently, it is 2,000 per day. What does it seek to do? Because there could be challenges for late submission, and payment. And instead of penalizing you and punishing you and even making things harder for you, you then now have a month. If it's within a month, you'll then remit 20,000. If it's within every day, if as it currently is, it's actually 2,000 per day. That makes it very expensive, makes it very, very expensive for now as it is, and this will ease the burden by the taxpayer. What are the requirements, Honorable Speaker, of a KRA PIN for registration of employees working remotely outside Kenya for Kenyan employees? Honorable Speaker, this is the final part as we get to the conclusion, as we come to the conclusion of this bill, Honorable Speaker. Clause 10 of the bill seeks to amend the first schedule to the Tax Procedures Act to provide that the registration of an employee who works remotely outside Kenya for an employer based in Kenya must include the requirement for the employee to have a KRA PIN. Consequently, such employees, even though they work outside Kenya, will need to obtain a KRA PIN for tax purposes related to their employment within a Kenyan employer. This requirement ensures that these employees are registered with the Kenya Revenue Authority and are compliant with tax regulations, regardless of their physical location outside the country. We all know what the PIN does. We all know that really you can't even transact on your own private transaction, including buying a car when you come to this country, buying land, or anything that you want to purchase without a KRA PIN. This also helps in as much as you are in such country and you're working remotely, just have that KRA PIN. Whenever you want to transact in anything, including even having a bank account and anything that you want to engage in, it will be very easy for you. And that is what Clause 10 seeks to do. So, in conclusion, Honorable Speaker, allow me to state that the whole essence of our Tax Procedures Act is to harmonize and consolidate the procedure rules for the administration of our tax laws. This is what this bill seeks to achieve. But there is more, Honorable Speaker. It clarifies our processes and procedural rules and goes further to extend tax amnesty. Like we've said, it really extends the tax amnesty, like I've earlier mentioned. Clarify the tax abandonment, because as it is right now, it's not really clarified, and it's not really very, very clear. And not only does it clarify, Honorable Speaker, it then sets in the ambiguity nature so that it's not abused from the Commissioner to the Cabinet Secretary then to this house, so it will not be abused. So that clarity will be will really be very important in terms of tax administration, and the clarity of computation for the business people through this integration system that we've mentioned that is being sought to, that is proposed in this bill, Honorable Speaker, under Clause 7, will also help in the computation of period for the lodgement of an objection of appeal. And it is for these reasons, Honorable Speaker, and several others that honorable members will be going through, that I urge this House to support this bill. It is the best. It isn't the way of doing business. It decriminalizes the question of remittance of deductions, so that you have such a period to have, to remit the deductions. And then it's actually a win-win for the taxpayer and the the Kenya Revenue Authority, because it is actually an obligation for all Kenyans to remit taxes, because it is the only way we can develop our country. We can't be demanding. On one point, you are demanding for development. On the other point, you are saying you want free primary education. You want an integrated system of bursary payment. You want roads. You are talking about stalled projects. You are talking about, electricity. You are talking about all those things, the health systems. But on the other part, you are saying, we don't want to pay taxes. We don't want to do this. We are being punished, all those kind of things. So it is actually a sign of patriotism to remit taxes and to pay taxes. And this particular bill of the procedure rules, Honorable Speaker, makes it very easy. It creates that synergy between the taxpayer and the tax administration done by the Kenya Revenue Authority. So with those very many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and call upon the Honorable Majority Leader of the National Assembly, one and only, K.I. to second. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Soro. Honorable Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. K.I. is Kimani Ichung'wa, Honorable Speaker. I hear members asking, who is that? Honorable Speaker, I rise to second. And just before I begin, Honorable Speaker, just to re-clarify that we are debating the Tax Procedures Amendment number 2 Bill of 2024, not the committee's report, because I did hear my good friend, the Honorable Nyikal, raise the issue of the report. And it's important also to mention that these reports, together with the business laws report, were tabled last evening around 5 o'clock. And I'm certain the Honorable Nyikal was not in the House at that time, so he may not have known, but I'm thankful that you are able to guide that those reports were tabled. And it's good also to remind members that these bills were published some time back, Honorable Speaker, and have been in the House. This bill has been in the House for the last month and a week. It was published on the 1st of November. So we had all the latitude to interact with the bill, and the committee only enriches what they have considered following public participation, and the reports are there. And indeed, Honorable Nyikal, if you have had the chance to go through the report and members, you'll be able to see that the public were very much in support of this bill, because this bill is addressing challenges or issues that were raised by members of the public. These bills were not just published by the National Treasury or the Leader of Majority. The bills came from a program where the National Treasury began with calling for views from members of the public on the tax regime in Kenya, how they would want to be taxed, how they would want to be treated by the Kenya Revenue Authority and other agencies that collect taxes, levies, and fees from them. And therefore, the National Treasury, in coming up with this bill, came from a very consultative process. And you remember when CS John Buddy was appointed as Cabinet Secretary, he did commit to Kenyans that he would indeed work very hard to change the manner in which the National Treasury interacts with Kenyans. And I think at the end of August or beginning of September, The National Treasury did call for views from Kenyans. Many Kenyans submitted their views, published from the Blues. It is from the views of the public. Therefore, even before we went back to the public as a National Assembly, because constitutionally we must carry out our public participation, the National Treasury had gone to the people, gotten their views, collated their views into the 3 bills: the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill, the Tax Laws Amendment Bill, and the Business Laws Amendment Bill, Business Laws Amendment Bill of 2024, whose reports were also tabled yesterday. And following the extensive public participation carried out across at least 6 counties in the country, and lastly, here in Nairobi at KICC by the Finance and National Planning Committee, then the reports were tabled yesterday, and members are at liberty to interact. Honorable Speaker, when I speak about these bills being about the people, you remember last year, Honorable Speaker, we were able to lose a number of provisions in the finance bill. Sorry, not last year, earlier this year in June. And top among those provisions that got lost with the finance bill were very good and progressive proposals that were helping Kenyans as they settle their tax liabilities. Honorable Speaker, the mover of the bill has gone into great length to speak to some of these issues, from the tax invoice and the requirements of the tax invoice to e-teams, and even exempting our small-scale farmers or small-scale traders from the issue of e-teams. And these are some of the things that now will be able to benefit the Kenyan people, that unlike the situation before where every other small-scale farmer, small-scale trader was required to be on the e-teams system, now it gives you a threshold of the 1 million shillings that the mover of the bill has alluded to, and I don't need to repeat that, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, more importantly for me is the question of tax amnesty. You remember, Honorable Speaker, we had a tax amnesty that was expiring on the 30th of June this year. And many Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, because of the difficulties of liquidity in the country, exchequer not always being available for either the national government ministries and state departments, or even for our county governments, millions of our business people are owed money by government and government agencies. And I say millions, Honorable Speaker, of our people, from small-scale traders to very big contractors. But all these people, Honorable Speaker, because they have invoiced government, they have invoiced for VAT, they are required by the 20th of the following month to settle their VAT liabilities. When they don't settle, Honorable Speaker, they are penalized. And interest is levied on the amounts that remain unpaid, for instance, on VAT. Some of them, their financial years end in June, some in April, some in September. And they are required to pay income tax. But they have no money because their bills are yet to be settled. Some are in the pending bills committee that the former Auditor General Ouko was working on. Some have not been cleared yet by the pending bills committee. Some have been cleared, but they are yet to be settled. Yet KRA continues to accrue taxes, tax interest, and tax penalties on these business people, Honorable Speaker. It is these people, Honorable Speaker, that we must think about today as we pass this bill. Because this bill now is giving them another period of 1 year from 30th of June 2024 to 30th of June 2025. That as government agencies, as government, national government, as a county government settle their bills, then they will be able to settle their principal tax arrears or tax liabilities without having to accrue either penalties or interest. Honorable Speaker, you may imagine that is a penalty of maybe 10% or interest of maybe 2% per month, but there are people who I know, Honorable Speaker, contractors in this country, who owe Kenya Revenue Authority hundreds of millions in terms of penalties and hundreds of millions in terms of tax interest. And therefore, with this tax amnesty, Honorable Speaker, they will be able now to have that penalty and interest waived, and they settle the principal tax that they owe. And Honorable Speaker, when you engage taxpayers, and that is the spirit, the new spirit with KRA and the National Treasury, an engagement with taxpayers, they settle their tax obligations. When you offer a taxpayer an opportunity to waive his or her penalty and interest for them to pay the principal tax, they get encouraged to pay. And therefore, it becomes a win-win situation, both for the taxpayer who makes a saving and also for KRA that enters into payment agreements with the taxpayers that let us waive your interest and penalty and you pay our principal over probably another period of 6 months and you do away with your tax liabilities. And with that, Honorable Speaker, the taxpayer or the government is also benefiting. It's not just the business people. Let it not be seen like we are doing an amendment to benefit just business people. Even government is benefiting because in these agreements with taxpayers on waiving their penalties and interest, government also collects the tax liability earlier than they would have. Because what happens in most cases, Honorable Speaker, you will find all these business people end up going either to court or to the tax tribunals and get into a protracted battle with KRA over the settlement of those penalties and tax arrears, Honorable Speaker. But when we encourage them to pay their principal tax, they pay in time, government collects more revenue, we're able to offer more services and better services to the people of Kenya, and the business owners, Honorable Speaker, are able to get their tax, part of their penalties and interest waived. And with that, they have more liquidity to put into their businesses and therefore grow their businesses, create more employment, and eventually also end up paying more taxes since they're turning over more money than they would have, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, of course, there are also other procedural issues that the mover has alluded to, and I don't need to repeat all of them, especially on people who collect or withhold tax and fail to remit that tax. And the penalty that the mover has alluded to of 10% for people who deliberately do not remit taxes, Honorable Speaker, within the specified times in statute. Because this, Honorable Speaker, has been a big problem. People withhold taxes, be it VAT or withholding tax. They know the timelines, but you choose to trade with government money. And even the Holy Bible tells us, Honorable Speaker, that give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. And give to God what belongs to God. And since all these business people and us go to church on Sundays and we give to God what belongs to God, it's only fair that then also when you withhold taxes that belong to the taxman, then you remit those taxes to the taxman within the specified period of time. And a person who fails to submit that then will incur a penalty for that late submission of tax. Of course, Honorable Speaker, the mover has also spoken to the issues that we need transactions that require PIN numbers. And it's important, Honorable Speaker, because again, we are finding situations where people are buying cars. People are transacting in land and transferring land, but without PIN numbers, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, if I am able to buy a car, it means I have an income. And the personal identification number for tax purposes then should be a major prerequisite. If I am buying land, Honorable Speaker, or paying for insurance premiums, you cannot be paying for insurance premiums if you do not have a source of income. And therefore, it's one of the ways, Honorable Speaker, in enhancing some of these things to ensure that every other person who is earning an income within Kenya and outside Kenya and is a Kenyan is paying taxes, so that we continue to encourage a tax policy or a tax position, Honorable Speaker, where each and every one of us who earns an income pays our fair tax burden, so that we fairly share our tax burden and not overload some, as the case has been in the past, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I do believe, Honorable Speaker, with the enactment of this bill, it's a very short bill, Honorable Speaker, only about 10 clauses, and Honorable Speaker, it is a very progressive bill that will help not just the Kenya Revenue Authority, but more importantly, our business people and taxpayers. And that is why it speaks to procedures, tax procedures, because I know there are those who may want the world to believe that we are debating taxation and probably we are not very many in the House, Honorable Speaker. Even in the US Congress, even in the UK Parliament, some of these things are not discussed by a full plenary, Honorable Speaker. It is those people like Honorable Nyikal who are keen on legislating, who are usually in the House. And you know, Honorable Nyikal is always in the House. And I was just sharing with him here and telling him, you know, some of these are a little bit complex issues to do with finance, economics. There's not very many members who are keen on them. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, these bills are not just debated in plenary. The committees that have considered all these bills, the Committee on Public Finance, on Finance and National Planning, has membership that has considered that. Honorable Speaker, I've seen other committees, especially on the business laws, the Committee on Trade, and the Vice Chair, Honorable Marianne is here, she can attest to it, that the number of members of this House who have interacted with these bills are immense. Therefore, the fact that at the rise of the House, Honorable Speaker, you are about 80 of you in a House of 349 doesn't mean members have not interacted with these bills. Members have. And Honorable Nyikal knows, because I have interacted with Honorable Nyikal at the tea place, at the members' lounge. Members carry out even more detailed debate on bills outside this chamber than inside this chamber. A fact of life. Because I was in a very animated engagement just before I came in with members at the members' lounge having tea. And many who may have misconstrued what this is contained in this bill, Honorable Speaker, got to understand from that engagement. And I was impressed that members have taken their time, taken keen interest. And I do urge those of us who are here to support this bill. It's not a very detailed bill, only 10 clauses. And that is why there is nothing much more to add, Honorable Speaker. So that, Honorable Speaker, as without anticipating debate, Honorable Speaker, the next bill on business laws is also very critical and crucial for us, and in a way interrelated, because these business laws are also speaking to how we help businesses to grow, how we encourage businesses to invest in this country, how we make the running of business in this country more efficient, and investors who want to come and invest in our country. Can I second? Investors who want to come to invest in our country to have a conducive environment through the business laws that we'll be following, Honorable Speaker, and therefore urge that we support this bill, as I second and urge all of you to support it, and we move on to the other bills. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I second.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Honorable members, I now propose the question that Tax Procedures Amendment Number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill Number 46 of 2024 be read a second time. The Honorable Rindikiri Mugambi, Member for Buri. Honorable Sabina Chege, I'll give you a chance. Please,
thank you,
let us start with
Madam
the Honorable Member for Buri.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. I like to support this bill because, Madam Speaker, payment of tax is everybody's obligation in this country, and because we finance our activities through the tax that is paid, there is all importance to ensure that we have an effective, efficient system of tax collection and the entire tax administration. Madam Speaker, this bill, just like it has been articulated by the mover, a tax invoice in many cases is required to have legal and compliance standards when matters of tax reporting is concerned. And that's what Clause 2 is seeking or trying to clarify. Madam Speaker, I once received an invoice of payment of tax, but don't contain references or even the office that this invoice emanated from. I was left to go to KLA, and for 3 days, I could not trace the origin of this invoice. Madam Speaker, this bill addresses that requirement that we need to have an electronic tax invoice that clarifies the content, including the details of the payer, where it is coming from, the information of the transaction, and even sometimes on e-signatures of where that bill that invoice has originated from. Madam Speaker, this bill is very important because it's going to make it easier for the taxpayers to understand what is contained and what is it that they are paying and for what period. Madam Speaker, Clause 2 addresses the issue of amnesty. Madam Speaker, why do we need tax amnesty? Madam Speaker, we know these hard times. There is natural calamities that can cause one not to pay tax. There is even what we call transition of business from one to the other, relocations, etc. In many cases, you find that the taxpayer is not to meet the tax obligations in good time. And for this reason, Madam Speaker, it is very important that the tax procedure is able to address the inconveniences that are caused in terms of payment of their taxes. Madam Speaker, we have seen so many people who have, even for whatever reason, are not able to pay tax because of sickness or even injury. And amnesty is very important. And therefore, I agree that an extension of this amnesty is very valid, it's very important, and you need to support. There is the element of tax relief. Madam Speaker, you find in many cases there is conflict or doubt or even difficulties in the tax recovery. One complication that I have come across, Madam Speaker, is the issue of disability of the taxpayer, death, where you find somebody who has been learning business or even employed, passes on, and he has left tax liabilities. And he or she is not able to pay that because, the inheritance are not able to pay that tax. So because of that, there is need to have a tax relief framework that will enable such cases to be looked at and to enable either total forgiveness on paying of tax or the tax relief is granted according to a legal framework. Madam Speaker, the 10% penalty of failure to limit tax, to me, I think it is very important. Madam Speaker, this bill addresses the cost-effective collection of taxes, Madam Speaker. There are in many cases, Madam Speaker, you find we are not able to be where everybody is. And this bill tends now to synchronize all the electronic document into one system together with the iTax for the purpose of submission of electronic document. I think everybody is going online. Madam Speaker, I went to South Africa and I bought a few items, and when I reached at the airport, I went to launch tax refund. And they were asking so many questions. I think in Kenya here we need to have that kind of, and I think this is what this bill is addressing. Because strictly speaking, what everybody is looking at is how can we collect tax with ease? How Kenyans will be able to understand the methods and requirement of any tax that they are paying. So this bill, Madam Speaker, is really coming handy. Madam Speaker, we find that there are some situations where we need to address the issue of how do you period that is required for computation of tax liabilities. I've seen the Saturdays and Sundays and public holidays, yes, but I think I'll ask the mover to also look at a situation where somebody is disposed of because of sickness or injury. Madam Speaker, this is not addressed because that time that person is disabled from engaging into meaningful activities or to do certain things, that time and that person can prove that he was not able to do his activities. I think this time need also to be included there, not only the Saturdays and Sunday. Madam Speaker, I was given a tax liability of something that I did not cause. I ran a company, and instead of this putting the payment on the company's account, they put it in my account as using my PIN. They did not use the company's PIN. I didn't know until when I went for compliance, tax compliance. I was told I owe Kenya Revenue Authority 880,000 in terms of penalties and drained payments. Madam Speaker, this bill is addressing that. I was a self-employed person, and it took a lot of time for me to convince these people that I did not do it intentionally. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I say this bill is coming the right time because tax payment is very crucial in our economy. We don't need to make things difficult. We need to simplify for everybody to understand, and we need the public education on the ways taxes are paid in this country. It is only the educated, like Dr. Makali, who understands this. We need to get this information to the village. And once people discover that paying tax is easy, it will not be difficult for them now to start even understanding the payment and the importance of tax. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I support.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ndikiri. The Honorable Andrew Okwome, member for Karachonyo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Now, I support the bill. Let me just say that from the beginning. Madam Speaker, our citizens have had a lot of problems with payment of tax. And I think much of it probably was because of the procedure that was being adopted for payment of tax. This bill is trying to address the issue, and that's why I support it. I know of cases where the taxpayers have been offended. He is running a small business, maybe a restaurant, and a tax person comes, sits inside the restaurant, trying to see how many people are coming in, eating, and probably eating what. And then that intruder, I would call him, comes up with what he believes is the income the person has got and uses that for taxing the person according to the report he sends to the tax authority. This procedure will avoid that. The system we must have, and which is being reflected here, is a system which is understandable by both sides, the tax collector's side and also the taxpayer's side. It should not be a system that's not reflecting human face in terms of operation. I believe this bill is going to get us out of that past. I know, and everybody agrees, that we must pay taxes in order that the government can have revenue that they can use for running the nation. And I tend to believe while we are doing this, we should also look at the capacity of the taxpayer. And that's why I was talking of human face collection of taxes. When somebody is not having his own revenue to pay immediately, the tax person or the tax authority should give time for payment of this and even stagger the payment through installment method. This will leave the taxpayer with a capacity to continue with the business and pay tax even for the future. But if we try to descend upon the taxpayer with heaviness of authority, we may be killing the goose that lays the egg. I support this bill. The procedure is useful. The knowledge people should have on what they are to pay, when and by what time at the limit. All those put together in the act as we are trying to do is useful. Madam Speaker, I support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Sabina Chege, nominated member.
Thank you, Madam.
And whip for Jubilee Party.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, for Jubilee Party, just in case you didn't know. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just to let you know that the Speaker is also a member of Jubilee Party, so we are third largest party in this House. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I will stand to support the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill number 2 of 2024. Madam Speaker, mine are going to be a few highlights here and there. First and foremost, Madam Speaker, to say I want to really commend the Treasury for reaching out to the public to find out what they really want from the payment of taxes. And I want to say that, Madam Speaker, if Kenyans committed in remitting taxes on time, at the end we might not even be able to add more taxes, and we can be able to survive with what we have. Madam Speaker, also when this bill addresses the shortcuts that people look for, and now there's clarity, there are clear guidelines on what to do, by what time, the issue of amnesty, the issue of penalties, the issue of the timelines. This is very important, Madam Speaker, so that the people who are either in business and they would want to seek for amnesty, or they would want even to write to the commissioner in case of many things that the colleagues have said, whether it's a holiday, whether it's somebody who is indisposed, and I'm in support of the honorable member who said sometimes somebody can fall sick. And in that case, Madam Speaker, then they are not able to remit their taxes. There should be a provision of that case, Madam Speaker. And I want to say taxes are not liked. And even in the Bible, I remember the tax collectors were not really loved. But it's also in the Bible that we are told you give to the Caesar what belongs to Caesar and to God what belongs to God. And so once we have clarity on how to pay the taxes, Madam Speaker, we will be able to collect more and not harass people. And at the same time, Madam Speaker, I also pray that whatever is paid or collected from the people, that it goes to the right use. I want to go to Section 5, Madam Speaker, where the Section 5 seeks to amend Section 42 of the Principal Act. And this is where it says a person who is required under this section to withhold tax and without reasonable cause fails to withhold the whole amount of the tax which should have been withheld, or fails to remit the amount of the withheld tax to the commissioner by the 5th working days after the deduction was made, shall be liable to penalty of 10% of the amount not withheld or remitted. So, Madam Speaker, we know there are some tax collectors who actually go and start harassing people and saying, if I give me this, I may be able to give you this back. But when we have that clarity that is a percentage of 10%, then individuals would know, and the number of days are given by the 5th working day after the deduction was made. It is important that, Madam Speaker, that the people who are meant to remit, they remit the same. And there is also the issue about the refund of the overpaid tax, which is in section clause 6, which is amending section 47, by saying for a refund of tax overpaid in case of an income tax within 5 years from the date on which the tax was overpaid, or in case of any other tax within 6 months from the date of which the tax was overpaid. Madam Speaker, the issue of electronic and reducing the human contact, because sometimes when there's a lot of human contact, we have seen not only in taxes, even in collection of the parking fee. Remember, Madam Speaker, the days that you would go park your car in town and somebody hides just to wait for you to look for him, and maybe you're in a hurry, you're going to an office, then they come back and clamp your car so that then you can be able to cough something out. So the issue of removal of human interaction with technology is commendable. And Madam Speaker, all that I hope is that also with technology, there are also loopholes that comes in. We hope then that they will also be able to secure that the tax money that is collected will not disappear. You know, also electronic has also its own challenges, Madam Speaker. The last one I want to comment about, which I really recommend, and this is very important for the taxpayers, is about the transaction for which a PIN is required, and why every Kenyan, especially who is of age, need a PIN. And it is important that people know, if you want to register a title or a stamping of instruments, you require a PIN. There's a proof of development plans for anybody who wants to build, and payment of water deposit. You can imagine how many Kenyans pay water. It is important for Kenyans to know that the first schedule, it's giving clarity on transaction on which a PIN will be required. There's the issue of registration of a motor vehicle, transfer of motor vehicle and licensing of motor vehicles, registration of business names, registration of companies. And this also now addresses, Madam Speaker, I think 2 days or last week we had the issue of the startups, where we're also encouraging our young people to come up with startups, and we're coming up with how they can be able to be assisted. So it is important for even our young people to know that they require this PIN, so that as you register your business name, you will have a PIN, registration of companies, underwriting of insurances, trading license, importation of goods and custom clearing and forwarding, payment of deposits from power connections. It's very important, or contracts for the supply of goods and services to government ministries and public bodies. And remember, this house also provided for a specific percentage, that is 30%, to be given to our young people and the women in this country. Issues of opening account with financial institution, whether it's a bank or an investment bank, that you require to have a PIN, registration and renewal of membership by professional bodies and licensing agencies. That means if you would want to register as an engineer and as a nurse, any professional body, that you require to have a PIN. Number 13 is interesting because there's registration of mobile cellular pay bill and till numbers by telecommunication operators, carrying out business over the internet or electronic network, and registration of a trust. So, Madam Speaker, we say lack of knowledge is what really makes people suffer. And so it is important that we provide this knowledge, and I'm commending Treasury for the same. And I hope once we become very clear, once we educate the public on the taxes and what is required on them, the public will have no issue once they know what is required and the timelines. So, Madam Speaker, I support the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill number 2 of 2024, and commend even the committee, the Treasury, and even this House for the commitment. And just to say, Madam Speaker, there's a lot of politics going on, but what is really happening in this House? A few weeks ago, yesterday we dealt with coffee, And these are the most important things that we have been sent by our representative to come and do this in this house. So I want even to commend my colleagues who are here this morning to make sure that we do what we were called to do for the nation. I thank you for the opportunity, and I support.
Thank you very much, Sabina Chege. The Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, member for Kitui Central.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I want to join my colleagues in appreciating the work which has gone into preparation of this bill, all the way from Treasury and to our own Committee on Finance and Planning. Honorable Speaker, the bill we are discussing is what we call the Tax Procedures Bill Amendment. And this basically, what it entails is making the procedures of tax payment simple, clear, and we ensure that we have no ambiguity. So any attempt towards improving the way taxes are processed in this country, Honorable Speaker, should be supported. And on that note, I do support. Because once we get this right, Honorable Speaker, it will be very easy for this country to collect taxes and more taxes. And I've said many times, Honorable Speaker, a taxpayer is like a milk cow. If you feed it well, it gives you a lot of milk. If you don't feed it, you don't get any milk from it. So the way you treat a taxpayer, Honorable Speaker, will determine how much taxes they will pay. So in a situation where you make it very simple that a taxpayer knows how much is expected to be paid, a taxpayer knows how much the penalty is if you pay late, a taxpayer knows the procedures for refund in case there's an overpayment, that makes it very easy for the taxpayer to continue paying without complaining, Honorable Speaker. So I just want to pick about 3 items in this bill, which I think are critical and which need to be supported so that we are able to collect more taxes. The first one, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of where you have overpaid and you need to be refunded. Honorable Speaker, that matter is very important. And I really agree that it should be done in time, in good time. And I was just asking myself, Honorable Speaker, in a situation where then Treasury delays the refund, would the taxpayer be demanding too much that even as they refund, they are also charged a tax to it, some interest to it? The same way, Treasury will tax a penalty, it will reimburse a penalty where there's delay in payment. I think that will then smoothen the process. The other matter which is important, Honorable Speaker, some of the delay in refunding is a result of there being no resources which are ready to refund the taxpayer when there's an overpayment. And I think as a country, we need to start thinking in the long run, can we have established what we call a tax refund fund? So that we have a fund, so that when you are due for refund, we don't start looking for the money that time. That will be critical, Honorable Speaker. The other matter, Honorable Speaker, which is important, is a delay in payment. And Honorable Speaker, what is happening in this country, for example, the VAT, we seriously need to think about what to do. Because the reason why many Kenyans are delaying repayment is because the people who are benefiting from the goods and services have not paid. For example, the government itself, look at the level of pending bills, Honorable Speaker. In a situation where we have pending bills to the tune of 600 billion, how would you expect somebody to pay VAT when they have not been paid? So we need to make sure that we are aligned, that we pay bills in time, and then we'll be able to collect money in time. Another thing, Honorable Speaker, amnesty is very important in any tax regime, in tax arrangement. But also, amnesty cannot be perpetual, Honorable Speaker, that is forever. So even as we discuss about amnesty, and that's why I agree that we need to have a fixed date when people should be able to clear. Otherwise, if you leave it open, then you actually collect less because people will never pay taxes in good time. And you know the way we prepare the taxes and the tax proposal, Honorable Speaker, they are also time bound. For example, you say in this year we'll be able to collect this. So if you are not able to have it time bound, it means you'll be collecting even later after the time is gone, and then you cannot project well what you are likely to be collecting, Honorable Speaker. The other matter which is important, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of withholding tax. You know, Honorable Speaker, anytime you do some work, for example, consultancy, people will deduct the money from your money, and then you find that some companies or some organizations will not even remit that money to KRA.
And a year or two later, you see getting a tax demand that you were not able, that demand was not remitted, so you pay. So I think this penalty of 10%, Honorable Speaker, I support it. So that if you are a person who has been authorized to collect withholding tax, you should be able to remit it to Treasury in good time, so that you don't have you don't really harass the person who you have deducted the money from. My last point, Honorable Speaker, is this issue of the PIN. Honorable Speaker, you know it's good. We are saying we want to introduce the idea of PIN for Kenyans who are working remotely, people who are working remotely for a Kenyan company. That is very good. But also, I think we need a bit of clarity on this, and I wish the Finance Committee will be able to provide more clarity on this matter, because we could easily also, Honorable Speaker, punish Kenyans people who are out there, foreigners, who would want also to work for Kenyan companies. So that that matter becomes very clear. So that when I read that law, then I know that if I'm a foreigner and I want to work for a Kenyan company remotely, what are my tax demands? What is required of me in terms of tax payment? If we do it that way, Honorable Speaker, then we will be doing the best thing for this country. And as you continue to speak, I think it's a learning curve. So that any tax procedure which seems to be complicated, can we on daily basis or on annual basis continue revising so that we make the whole process of taxation simple for Kenyans? We need clarity, we need simplicity, so that at the end of the day, people will know how much to pay, and we can then grow our economy. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Makali Molu. The Honorable Ambassador Benjamin Langat, member for Enaimoi, also speaking for the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me this opportunity to discuss this Tax Procedures Amendment Bill. Madam Chair, previously we used to have every tax law had their own procedures in terms of when to pay, how to pay, what documents to file, Madam Speaker. But over time, Madam Speaker, it was agreed that we need to harmonize all the tax procedures to come under one law, which is the Tax Procedures Act, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2024, actually seeks to simplify further and clarify further several tax processes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it provides for what should electronic tax invoice contain, again for standardization, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the bill, I'm just giving a summary of what the bill provides for before I go to the details. The bill provides for extension of the tax amnesty, especially considering the last experience where, Madam Speaker, when we gave Kenyans a tax amnesty, the Kenya Revenue Authority were able to collect 43 billion shillings in taxes which had already, it was difficult to collect at that time, Madam Speaker. The bill sets a 10% penalty for VAT withholding agents. Madam Speaker, again, if you are an agent, you are collecting money, that's not your money, you are collecting on behalf of government. Then you delay or you fail to pay. Madam Speaker, you deserve to pay even more because that's not your money. You are deducting and not remitting to the KRA. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I just want to inform the House that according to our Constitution, Article 118, 1B, Parliament must facilitate public participation for all the bills that it is considering. And read together with our standing orders 127.3 and 3A requires Parliament that we must do public participation. And I want to inform the House, Madam Speaker, that we did a very extensive public participation as a committee. Madam Speaker, we did 6 counties out of Nairobi. Madam Speaker, in Western Kenya, where I led a team of some of my members. We went to Bungoma, Madam Speaker. We went to Siaya, and we went to my own county of Kericho, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, if I just give a summary of what they say. Madam Speaker, all the places we went, they welcomed the tax amnesty extension. And Madam Speaker, I'll be giving shortly what we have discussed as a committee and what we intend to do at the relevant stage, that is the third reading, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we also did a town hall meeting for the organized groups like the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the Law Society of Kenya, different audit firms, Madam Speaker, different tax consultancy companies, Madam Speaker, different sectors, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we then proceeded and considered all those matters which have been raised by individual organizations. And I want to confirm to them here, Madam Speaker, because when we went outside there, some Kenyans were trying to say, we know you are just doing an exercise. We know you have already made a decision. It's an exercise in futility, but I want to confirm that we have captured most of the views which we received from the public, including the ones we received in Nairobi, KICC, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, having said that, I already said we went to Western, and also we went to Coastal Region, Taita Taveta, Isiolo, Madam Speaker. Having said that, Madam Speaker, let me run through the main provisions of the bill, clause by clause, again for the information of the House, very briefly. Madam Speaker, clause 2 of the bill seeks to amend the Tax Procedures Act to prescribe information to be contained by a tax invoice. Again, Madam Speaker, we said procedures must be clear. Kenyans must be sure that when they do this, it is within the law. So it provides the details which the electronic tax invoice should contain. Again, that is for clarity. Number 2, clause 3 seeks to amend section 7E of the Tax Procedures Act to extend the tax amnesty period from 30th June 2024 to 30th June 2025. Madam Speaker, this was a welcome move by all the stakeholders. And based on the prior experience of the immediate tax amnesty period, KRA was able to collect slightly over 40 billion, Madam Speaker, on account of this tax amnesty. What is a tax amnesty, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, tax amnesty is where we are telling Kenyans, if you have outstanding taxes and you have been given penalties and interest, then by this law we are saying we are waiving the interest, we are waiving the penalties. Please pay the principal amount of tax that is due to KRA. Madam Speaker, I have had members talk here, and I want to say this is the final call. Because again, Madam Speaker, if we keep extending the tax amnesty, it becomes the normal, Kenyans will be used to it, and no one will be paying taxes because they expect another tax amnesty maybe next year. Madam Speaker, I think as a committee we discussed and we agreed, this should be the final call. Those who have not paid, please by 30th of June 2025, that is the final call. Please pay. By this law, we will waive the interest. By this law, we will waive the penalties. Please pay the principal taxes. So I have other members that we should not keep extending the tax amnesty. Clause 4 proposes inserting a new section, 37F, to provide a relief because of doubt or difficulty in tax recovery. Madam Speaker, this is called tax abandonment. Madam Speaker, sometimes it is not possible to collect some taxes. Maybe the taxpayer has died, maybe the taxpayer has relocated, and we cannot get the local agent here, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, we need to give a procedure on how we can abandon that tax, because it is not possible to collect. If somebody has died, or if somebody has relocated and we cannot get a local agent here, then there should be a way of abandoning, but of course, with some restrictions, so that it cannot be abused, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Clause 5 of the bill proposes to amend Section 42A of the Principal Act by deleting the provisions of and inserting the new subsection to prescribe a penalty of 10% for persons who fail to be told and remit. Madam Speaker, if you are a tax agent and you have been appointed by KRA, you have withheld my money as your customer. You need to remit the money. And some people are saying, no, this is too high. Madam Speaker, it should actually be more, because you are using the money that is not yours. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, as somebody said here, Madam Speaker. Clause 6 proposes amending Section 47 to provide timelines for the application of offset for overpaid tax. Again, this bill, Madam Speaker, has for the first time allowed the taxpayers who have overpaid the taxes, Madam Speaker, to be able to claim against the outstanding taxes or future liabilities, Madam Speaker. Because, Madam Speaker, previously, you could have overpaid income tax, but then you have a refund of VAT. Madam Speaker, the procedure then was, you first of all pay your income tax as you wait for your refund. Madam Speaker, we are saying, if I have a VAT refund and I have overpaid income tax, why don't we net off, Madam Speaker? And we know government is difficult to refund the amount. So this bill, for the first time, we are saying, if you have one tax which is overpaid and you have a refund in the other one, you net off, Madam Speaker. And we are saying, for income tax, 5 years. You can claim up to 5 years. For all other taxes, the bill proposes 6 months, but we have agreed as a committee, we extend that 6 months to 12 months, so that we give taxpayers enough time to be able to lodge the claims for overpaid taxes.
Let him finish. Give him more time.
Yeah, please. Madam Speaker, Clause 7 seeks to amend Section 59A to provide for the integration of electronic tax system with iTax. Madam Speaker, this is where there was a lot of contestation from the public. And the contestation is, you are telling KRA to come and integrate with your system. What about the data protection? What about the private information? Some of the people came and said, if it's an hospital and you come and connect to my system, how safe is the hospital information for your clients? Can KRA access them? Madam Speaker, some of the manufacturers say, for the manufacturing information, how safe will it be if you connect to KRA? But Madam Speaker, we will be providing a better fashion, which is a win-win, Madam Speaker, between the concerns of the public and the requirements of KRA, where we will be limiting the integration, Madam Speaker, to only financial information, because KRA is only interested in financial information. Madam Speaker, Clause 9 proposes to amend Section 83 to provide for a penalty of 20,000 shillings per month for export processing zone enterprise that fails to submit required returns. Madam Speaker, if you are operating in an export processing zone, you are enjoying a lot of tax reliefs, and you are supposed to file returns to KRA. If you fail, you are supposed to pay 20,000 per month, but in our view, this is even less. Madam Speaker, I wish to thank your office on behalf of the Finance Committee for facilitating our sittings as a committee, our travel to various counties in this republic. I've already said we traveled to 6. We divided ourselves into 2, Western Kenya, Coastal and Eastern Kenya, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank your office for supporting the committee. Madam Speaker, I want to thank my members. Let me report to you, Madam Speaker. Last night, we worked up to 1 a.m. That's why you can't even see the chairman here, because he had to sign some reports by 6 a.m. In the morning today, Madam Chair. So I want to thank the members for the very hard work, for the cooperation, and we had quorum all the time. We were able to process the reports within the shortest time possible. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support the bill and request the members to support the bill. We shall be bringing the necessary amendments in third reading to be able to capture what we got from the public participation. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Seme, Honorable James Nikal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I also rise to support this bill. Because to me, the summary of this bill is, we make the procedures easy, flexible, so that we can collect taxes from more people instead of increasing tax on individuals. So with that principle, Madam Speaker, I support this. And it really does bring this out very well. In clause 2, this electronic invoice, it actually gives you all the details so that whatever you want to follow up later is available for you. In clause 3, when we get small business people, we were burdening them with this thing of issuing a tax invoice. We now put it up to the purchaser. So what we are doing is really making things easy so that more people pay, so that we don't have to push individuals. If you go to clause 3, if there is an amnesty, and I like this because it is on interest. So if it's on interest, at least that, the principal is still paid. And in clause 4, you give a tax relief where you are finding it is difficult there's doubt on the tax. More often, even in court, if there is doubt, it goes to the accused. So in this case, let this doubt and difficulty benefit the taxpayer. And for that, you have to put a framework. So that is what this bill is doing. And clause 5, withholding tax. People can withhold tax. They have taken tax from you, but they're not paying it. So later on, you get taxed, and actually somebody had taken your tax and didn't pay it. And in clause 6, if you have overpaid and you also owe tax, why not just offset it? Why pay and then claim, and you will never get? So I think that is really important. And in clause 7, when you are integrating the systems, I mean, it makes it easy to do things. So with that, Madam Speaker, I find that basically what we have done is makes things easier, more people pay, instead of getting a few people and push them to pay higher tax. Madam Speaker, what the previous honorable member did is why I was raising the issue of reports. Madam Speaker, let's get into the habit of getting reports earlier, because reports and committee members give insight in some technical areas which people can't follow. So it's not that we are discussing the report, but it also gives you even what the committee thinks, what the public thinks, and it helps us in the debate, particularly when later on you're thinking. And I also raised the issue of numbers. Madam Speaker, next time, when we're having a very important thing like this, let's limit the number of committees that are sitting. Because even me, I'm now rushing that I should go and attend a committee, and there's a very important task going on. Those are the two issues I was raising. Otherwise, I support this.
The Honorable Member for Dagoretti North, Honorable Beatrice Elachi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me also thank and really give thanks to the committee, to the Chair of Finance, for indeed that, as I said when we were discussing the state of address of the President, that it is now when the country is calm, is coming to a calm, Madam Speaker, and we are able now to focus and see us move ahead. And I'm hoping also citizens are now seeing that in the last few weeks in this Parliament, we've been able to try to just bring what citizens have been asking. For me, Madam Speaker, one of the things I appreciate about this bill is that the Tax Procedure Amendment Act is now simplifies. It clarifies for you several tax processes. It informs citizens on how even you can do your electronic invoices. It outlines so that it brings you out of confusion. Madam Speaker, it also eradicates corruption now, because one of the things that we have had in this tax, while Kenyans are feeling harsh, they feel we have really pushed them hard. Madam Speaker, I'll give you an example, and I hope the President will look at the cities and talk to the governors of the cities. That, Madam Speaker, in Nairobi, for example, we have someone who wakes up every morning and manages the washrooms that you see across Nairobi. Madam Speaker, when I was Speaker, one washroom in Nairobi, especially in the CBDs where there's very full, floor is so full, we have a lot of people walking in. They walk away every day with not less than 100,000. And this person does not pay tax. You can't tax him or her. But that is what they walk away. The lowest they can walk away is 50,000. That's the lowest. A person you see in Nairobi, in the city, doing your shoe shine every morning, that person, the owner of that, because there's a person doing the shoe shine and there's the owner of the tent. The owner of the tent is like a matatu guy. The same money a matatu leaves in the evening taking to their boss is the same money that guy will be taking and now paying and then goes home with something, no tax. And so as we bring in these bills to ensure the salaried, those who pay taxes in this country, can also have a cushion. It is important for those who are doing all those businesses to remember there is a person who walks around to clean that place. He's paid by the county, but you don't pay anything. There is another person who does this. You don't pay tax. Maybe you pay the county and you assume that is the tax. No. And so, Madam Speaker, it will address such things. Madam Speaker, there's one thing we need to address. And I'm hoping also they will address that one, and I think it's in GAF and NCGDF, we have our committee members. They normally come for your committee meetings. When they are coming, you are supposed to give them an allowance of transport. It's not an allowance, it's a transport to go back, or maybe accommodation, because maybe he comes from the farthest end to come to where your CDF office is, maybe in town, and so we might sleep. And we must talk to KRA to see that that is not an allowance for tax. This is not a person who works somewhere and is taxed. And so he has a salary, and so this is an allowance, he's sitting like a bodo. No, this is a person who has come from a CDF place to come and just do a meeting. He needs transport to go back. We must remove tax from that, because they will pay VAT. And I remember during Kibaki's time why he said it is so difficult to get Kenyans, all of them, onto a tax integration. The best you can do is put VAT so that everyone pays that. So let us think of that even in this House, Madam Speaker. We appreciate, and I'm telling Kenyans, you have amnesty that is very clear. Please walk into a tax office and deal with it. The challenges sometimes we face, and that is why you find sometimes a lot of non-compliance, is also, Madam Speaker, taxpayer literacy. And we must deal with it. There must be a way KRA must bring in awareness, public participation, not public participation of our finance committee and all committees of Bunge, public participation done by KRA to just create awareness. We are giving you new laws. They must go out there to explain to Kenyans now how they can deal with these laws. Madam Speaker, if we do that, we shall end up with good compliance. But then now, as a salaried person who is also in all this, I know we have 3 good bills that are also coming to resolve some of these challenges, Madam Speaker. So for me, as Kenyans, let us have the spirit of doing what is right. Just pay tax. Don't evade. That's why we find ourselves in all these disputes. That's why we find, and also KRA, you must understand that is the Kenyan who is supposed to give you also revenue. How you handle that person is very critical. I will tell you, in the market, sometimes when you meet our KRA officers, they can be banned in a market for nothing because they come as if this man is a thief. Just come knowing very well that is a Kenyan. Every day he or she will be in a market trading, and that is where you must collect your revenue. But when you come and carry all their goods, do all the manners of things I see sometimes at 4 a.m. when women and all those who are trading in markets, Ukulima, Kawangware, you find them running all over with these KRA guys. And you ask them, what is the real problem? Because when this vehicle is coming in, already you are collecting, county is collecting. So any person will not even understand that double taxation, Madam Speaker. And those are some of the things I'm hoping now we are trying to work out, and in this procedural act amendment, we will work out all those things so that women who are the highest traders in the markets will understand. But lastly, Madam Speaker, as I finalize, I've realized of late, I don't know whether government officials fear to just stand firm and give what government is doing, because some of these things, if you feel you fear, go and take a screen. Simplify the things they need to do. Let it roll there, and people will end up in the market reading, okay, put it in Kiswahili, put it in English, let them read. They will understand what they are supposed to do. Than just this thing of, it's the same as how we are dealing even, and I know we are going to a Kamkunji, Madam Speaker, but it's the same. Information sharing, communication. I don't know how we shall say this until it enters into the nerves of all the people who are working for the president. Because they are the ones who are making us, until now we have to be in Bunge, and you must do public participation as you do this. I mean, because we are wondering, where are you? There are good things, there are tough things, but where are we? But as we finalize, let us, and I want to thank the Finance Committee, we have toned down the country. They can understand there are different amendments that are coming in, and these amendments will support each Kenyan to be able to pay tax. Tax for development, not tax for corruption. It is not tax for your pocket. It is tax to bring services to Kenyans for them to see what is best for this country. I support, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for North Imenti, Honourable Rahim Daud.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. From the outset, I support the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill. Madam Speaker, in supporting, I just want to clarify that this is not a taxation on any public. It is just the procedures which we are dealing with. Madam Speaker, I draw the attention of the Chair or Vice Chair of Finance. Section 2, Madam Speaker, where it says 2E, the time, date and time which the tax invoice was issued and the date and time which the supply was made, if it is different from the date of the tax invoice was issued. Madam Speaker, I have an issue with E, F, G, H. In that, Madam Speaker, this thing will be very difficult to implement in the sense that the ETRs, which already the business people have,
at least banks should be able to move to at least 5 billion shillings. And I was just looking at the statistics. It's only 6 banks in the country that are not that, because I had seen a lot of talk on social media, oh, they want to close banks, they want to force banks to merge and all that kind of talk. But we are saying within a period of 3 years, those 6 banks that are below 5 billion have 3 years then to transition and increase their core capital to 5 billion shillings. We have another 18 banks that are between 5 and 9 billion shillings, and they also have those 3 years to move towards 10 billion. Then another 24 banks are on the verge of 10 billion and above, 24 banks in the industry. So, Honorable Speaker, you are looking at about another 24 that you need to move up. And we are giving them 3 years, first 3 years to move to 5 billion, another 2 years to move to at least 8 billion shillings, and the last 2 years for everybody now to be on 10 billion shillings core capital. And that tells you, Honorable Speaker, they will have adequate time to be able to mobilize resources. I have seen some have already begun that. I have seen a rights issue by Housing Finance, that was a mortgage finance company, and now is also involved in retail business for banking. Honorable Speaker, other provisions that I could speak to quickly on clause 3 is still touching on the adequacy, capital adequacy of the banks. And also, Honorable Speaker, the amendments to the Central Bank of Kenya Act, Cap 491, the bill seeks to amend various provisions of the Central Bank of Kenya Act to allow the Central Bank to regulate all forms of non-deposit taking credit business. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the current Act, Part VIC of the Central Bank of Kenya Act.
Majority Leader, I hope you're aware that we are rising at 12.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to move quickly, Honorable Speaker. The Central Bank, it regulates digital credit business. And the definition of digital credit business, Honorable Speaker, creates the impression that the Central Bank is only regulating those who are lending money either on the internet, on mobile, or on computer devices. And therefore, going by this interpretation of the Act, it does not cover all forms of credit, including those who, the schemes of buying, you buy now, pay later, then the people like peer-to-peer lenders, Honorable Speaker, and especially this thing of buy now and pay later, Honorable Speaker. Border riders have been the biggest victims of these schemes, Honorable Speaker. You find a border rider or prospective border owners getting credit for 120,000 shillings to buy a border, and they pay this border probably 4 or 5 times. And at the end of the day, the border is repossessed by these credit lenders. And we therefore want to bring to the ambit of the regulation of CBK all these lenders, whether you are lending digitally or by mobile or online, but if you are even on these hire purchase schemes, whether it's border, whether it's for cooking gas, our women, our mama bogas have also suffered immensely under these lenders. They buy cooking gas and cooking gas cylinders and cookers, and within 2-3 months, after paying immensely, probably 3-4 times what you borrowed, you are forced to take back what you own because these people are not regulated. Honorable Speaker, other provisions touch on the credit reference bureaus, and in the interest of time, Honorable Speaker, I do not want to get into all that. And also the Microfinance Act, Honorable Speaker, as I said, on the things that were being done by the Trade and Industry Committee under the chairmanship of Honorable Gakuya. As I've indicated, we will be moving to drop some of the amendments relating to the Scrap Metal Act, but there are provisions of the Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute that establishes KIRDI, or the Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute, which is responsible to undertake research and development in industrial and allied technologies. And clause 37 of the bill seeks to provide that the institute may acquire or dispose patent rights which may be necessary for the institute to achieve its objectives, Honorable Speaker. There are also provisions, Honorable Speaker, as I mentioned, in the National Electronic Single System Act under clause 38 of the bill, which seeks to amend the National Electronic Single Window System Act to give powers to the Cabinet Secretary to exempt certain category of users of the National Electronic Single Window System from payment of prescribed fees, Honorable Speaker. And exempting payment of fees removes the potential financial barrier for businesses, especially small and medium enterprises. And I must thank the committee because if you read and interact with their report, you see we're very much in support of these provisions because it creates, as I said, the potential to remove financial barriers that stop SMEs from growing in this country. And therefore, some may be exempted from these prescribed fees under these amendments. And this will lead to higher adoption rate of the system by industry and by SMEs. Honorable Speaker, let me not go beyond that in the interest of time. I believe members will have more time in the afternoon to be able to interact with this bill and request the chair of the Finance, Trade and Industry Committee, the Honorable Gakuya, aka Bazenga. Trade and Industry, the Honorable Gakuya, aka Bazenga, to second, and I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, I beg to second that the Business Law Amendments Bill 2024 is an omnibus bill sponsored by the leader of the majority party, the Hon. Kimani Ichung'wah, pursuant to the provisions of Articles 118 and Standing Order 127 of the National Assembly, Standing Orders, the clerk through advertisement in the local daily newspaper on Thursday, November 14th, 2024, invited the public and stakeholders to submit memorandums of the bill to be received by Thursday, 28th November 2025 at 5 p.m. The bill was thus being committed to the relevant departmental committee on to facilitate public participation. Madam Speaker, the bill contains amendments to various business-related statutes, 6 of which fall under the purview of the mandate of the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. The committee has received and reviewed many written memorandums submitted and also conducted public hearing from Monday 25th November 2022 to Wednesday 2027 November 2024 at the main chamber County Hall. Madam Speaker, the bill also attains the following acts of parliament which are related to the committee: the National Electoral Single Window System Act Cap 2021. The bill proposes to grant the Cabinet Secretary the powers to exempt a certain category of users of the National Electronic Single Window System from the payment of the fees prescribed. Madam Speaker, due to the time, I beg to second.
Honorable members, I now propose Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Business Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2024 be read a second time. We are supposed to adjourn at 12. Honorable Marianne, you can start, then you'll carry on in the afternoon. So you can start.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand to support the Business Laws Amendment Bill. And as I stand to support, first we want to start with the Standards Act. And the amendments that are being brought in the Standards Act are going to assist, especially the manufacturers in this country, and we, the traders, or we, the consumers of manufactured products. One of the requirements that has been put in the Standards Act is a requirement that all manufacturers ensure that the products that they put on the shelves have, for example, a shelf life, and that particular shelf life is clearly marked in the products that they are going to dispose, or the products that they are going to sell in the market. There is also a requirement in the Standards Act that every manufacturer will also make sure that samples are carried out for every batch of production that they create, and they make sure that they keep all those samples just in case there is a recall. The manufacturer then will be able to note and know that this is the batch that had a problem, and they can be able to recall all those products. That, in essence, Madam Speaker, is going to support our consumers who currently consume products sometimes where products need to be recalled, but because of non-batching of samples and non-requirement of sample sizes to be kept, the manufacturers are unable to then be able to get recalls. We've seen recalls in countries where, for example, they manufacture vehicles like Volkswagen, where they'll say that this particular product has an issue and therefore needs to be recalled. But when it comes to products that are manufactured in Kenya and recalls are required, then the batching process and the sampling of those to confirm that there are issues in those products it's been a challenge, and therefore these amendments are coming to ensure or further buttress the fact that sampling done by manufacturers is done in the correct form.
Honorable Keitany, just to wind up in a minute, and then you'll still have a balance of 8 minutes when we come back in the afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The other issue I would need to bring out is the issue of establishment of laboratories, that every manufacturer will need to have certified laboratories, and those laboratories will be used to test the products that before they get to manufacture, before they get the products to the market. And these laboratories will also have to be they'll have to be accredited, and the accreditation centers we have insisted should be an accreditation center in Kenya under the Kenya National Accreditation Act, that is KENAS, is the one that will accredit all these laboratories. KEBS will also be required to ensure that they test, and where they are unable to test, they can be able to subcontract those testing services to labs that have already been accredited. So we are also trying to ensure that our products and services have a testing facility, and they've been tested so that the Kenyan consumer is able to get product that is of quality and meets the standards that have already been set under our Kenyan standards. So, Madam Speaker, some of these amendments, actually, or most of the amendments are to take care of the consumer of products, and this consumer of product is trusting the manufacturer, that the manufacturer has been able to do most of the products. A lot of other products that are imported, Madam Speaker, also do not meet those standards. And
Honorable Keitany, you'll have a balance of 8 minutes when you in the afternoon. That's what I was asking you to wind down. And I think for the record, you could just put it that the people who are due to speak, Honorable David Kiplagat of Soy, Honorable Samuel Atandi, and the Honorable Didi Raso, and the Honorable David Mboni, in that order, when we come back in the afternoon. Yes, and the Honorable Member for Buri. Have you noted that down? So no, I'm just going to the top 4 that have been there and have been waiting for a while, so they'll be the ones to start at the beginning. I think the clerks have taken note of that. So with that, honorable members, as you are aware, the Honorable Speaker had issued a communication yesterday, the 2nd of December 2024, regarding the Speaker's Kamukunji on the implementation of the universal health care in the members' restaurant today at 12:15. On this, therefore, the Honorable Speaker did direct an early adjournment of the House at 12 noon. We are a few minutes late instead of 1 p.m. Therefore, honorable members, the time being 12:06 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Tuesday, 3rd December 2024 at 2:30. Please let us all proceed to attend the Kamkunji. Thank you.